this moment for me, know that. Know that. So the title of my talk this morning is Create. I will get there. Thank you, Irene. It's been a while. All right, with one voice. Let us declare together. I am open and receptive as I receive this message today. Something I am about to hear applies to my life. I am here by divine appointment to receive spiritual tools for personal transformation and to help make the world a better place. My life's purpose is already within me, and I am committed to its unfoldment. As I hear truth today, I am set free, and so are you. Let's grow together. God is good all the time. Okay, so now, the title of my talk is Create a New Story. And so it begins. Once upon a time, there was a kind, good, passionate, and dedicated group of people who belonged to a sweet spiritual community that had a cozy home nestled in the trees in a place called Lake Oswego. And one day, these beautiful, shiny, lovely people found themselves at an important crossroads. Much change had occurred, and they realized that much awaited them ahead. Adventures, goodness, and godness. So, they summoned their collective courage to say yes to a somewhat feisty but deeply caring redhead. Stick with me, okay. And together, through their willingness to stand in spiritual truth and trust that wholeness could be the credo to live by, this mighty band of nimble new thoughters, filled with faith, moved mountains within themselves, which created the space to love even more. And so they did. They decided to create an even longer table with very comfy seats for truth seekers and truth questioners of every kind, ability, size, gender, expression, orientation, black and brown folks, every ethnicity, religious or non-religious, all ages had a seat at their table. And those truth seekers and those truth questioners who came stayed. They were very comfy seats. And they brought their children and their neighbors and their friends and their friends' friends. And the community grew a lot. And they began to delight in doing their own work and at the same time moving their feet while wearing sensible, stylish, yet comfy shoes. And they took their principles of oneness and wholeness and inclusivity and their shared belief in the birthright of human dignity for all people. And together, filled with their faith, they moved mountains in their community, which moved mountains in their country, which moved mountains in their world. And together, this kind, good, passionate, and dedicated group of people who belonged to a sweet spiritual community that had a cozy home nestled in the trees in a place called Lake Oswego, helped to create a world that worked for everyone. The end. Now, I know that was a bit tongue-in-cheek, but what I want you to know is that is my vision for us. That. Now, we're talking about stories today. And a story can be many things. It can be your history, positive or negative. It can be a fable or a fairy tale to make a point. Or it can be a parable, like we see in the teachings of Jesus in the New Testament, for example. He used mainly parables to teach spiritual principles. But even thousands of years before that, stories, parables, are found throughout ancient Hindu texts in the Mahabharata and about Krishna on the battlefield in the Bhagavad Gita. Parables and story is shared throughout religious history. In mystical Judaism, the Kabbalah, the 13th century text, the Zohar, it's filled with wonderful parables and stories. In Sufism and Sikhism and Islam and Baha'i, they all teach these amazing stories using parables for one reason and one reason only, and that is to teach universal spiritual principles that have been here since the beginning of time. Now, there are those stories that are told for enlightenment and good, and then there are those stories that can hurt. There can be stories that we quietly, or sometimes loudly, tell ourselves about our worth, or about the worth of another. They can be a story, there are stories purely based on assumptions that we just make up in our heads, right? That seems to be happening a lot, you know? I try to catch myself when I do that. We were in a conversation recently, Reverend Steve, in a meeting. We were talking about something and I had to stop and say, wait a minute, I'm just making that up. I don't have all of the evidence and the proof, right? Anybody, just me? Okay. So, the thing is that we also have wonderful, loving, affirming, magnificent stories that we treasure. Histories that make up the joy of who we are and how we are. We treasure these. And we hear about these wonderful stories often, Facebook and Instagram. There's also a lot of really, really good stories out there. The thing is that all of these stories make up the fabric of our lives. And as varied as they are, they share one thing in common. And that is, these stories are constantly beckoning and vying for our attention. So we get to decide which stories we're going to pay attention to. And if you think about it, we actually frame our entire lives around the stories that we tell ourselves and others, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's the framework we live in. So I ask you, my friends, what are the stories that you are telling yourself? What are the stories that you share about yourself with others? What are the stories you tell about your friends, your family, your spiritual community, this country, this world? What are those stories? Because stories are powerful. They have the potential for great, great good and the potential for great, great harm. Brene Brown said, when we deny the story, it defines us. When we own the story, we can write a brave new ending. I am all for owning the history of a particular story, and I am all for diving right in and writing a brave new ending to those certain stories of ours that hurt our sense of self, or that no longer fit who we are, or that limit us in any way. This is where we survivors choose to be victorious over any harm done to us in any way. Are you with me?
Yes.
All right. So, I like to rewrite the endings of stories. And many years ago, so my husband David and I, we have 4 daughters who are just both the sun and the moon. And years ago, we made a decision together that we were going to strongly limit the media, the television that our children would see and be exposed to. This was important to us. And so I ended up reading a lot of books to them. And a lot of the books I read happened to be fairy tales. And one night, after our daughter McKenna had a play date with a new girl in school, I was tucking her in, and I said, "So sweetheart, tell me about your play date. How did it go?" And I started tucking her in, and she very incredulously puts her hands behind her head, kind of looks at me, furls her brow, tilts her head for effect, and she says, "Well, Mom, I discovered that not all princesses end up with the princes. Many of them actually end up..." Mom, I'm going to go with your story. I think actually that the princesses do go off to medical school or join the UN. I like that one better. It worked. Oh, to this day I stick by my creative edits. My point is that unless we're dead and happily frolicking on the other side of life, we can always change the ending of our story. How do we do that? We can choose a new thought, we turn the flippin' page, and we write a bestseller. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. And what is the tool? How do we get there? One word: we listen. We listen. You know how you get spotty internet from time to time, where there's like a weak connection? I get that a lot, I don't know. But it's happening. So, the thing is that in God, or source energy, there is nothing spotty or weak. And my dear, Spirit is online, live streaming with us 24/7. And there's no bad connection there, unless we're not listening. We get downloads, if you will, in the form of nudges, I like to call them, all the time, that are specifically meant to serve, support, and uplift us, to bring greater ease, joy, abundance, and more peace than we can even imagine. The key is that we must pay attention and listen. I've learned in my own life that it really helps in this journey to consciously declutter those outdated stories and those old ideas of who we think we are and who we think we are supposed to be, so that we can create room and spaciousness for those new ideas which are rushing in on our behalf all the time. And this divine live streaming, it happens in a bajillion different ways. It happens internally, during prayer, meditation, journaling, or that seemingly out-of-the-blue sudden thought or idea that you have, you know, when you're, I don't know, like ironing or something, and then it's like, that's brilliant, that's great, you know? Or it can happen through the collective consciousness of oneness and eternal connection, of which we are all a part. And this might come in the form of lyric and song, or maybe a phone call, again, seemingly out of the blue, a meme you happen to see on Facebook, or you know, just that sentence that a friend happens to say at the right time, or a total stranger, a passing phrase in a grocery store that you overhear. That happened to me the other day. It's so powerful. You're like, what? Wait, that was for me. You know? It can happen in a myriad of ways. This divinely orchestrated conversation is always happening on your behalf, and if you turn to it, my loves, and if you pay attention to it, you will discover that Spirit is always calling us to a greater, easier, more balanced, abundant, joy-filled chapter in our life. Always, in all ways, this is happening. It is happening absolutely 100% for you, for each one of you. You are that treasured. We are that loved. Isn't that incredible? You are so loved that Spirit is going out of its way to communicate with you all the time. All the time. So, understanding that the divine is always in constant communication with us, nudging us towards ways to assist whatever it is that we may be moving through, whatever challenge it might be. It could be health, wealth, creative expression, relationship, whatever it might be. What I want you to hear about these nudges that I think sometimes happens is it's different for everyone, and it's different when we're in different places in our lives. I want to break this down just a little bit for you because it falls into a couple of different categories. Some of us are just too busy with the business of doing and handling and managing our lives to look up, much less pay attention. We bought into that, life as a treadmill illusion, and so we miss the nudges. And again, this is maybe in different times in your life. Then there are some of us, or periods of times in our life, when we may actually get the nudge to have a new thought about something, but we don't trust it. Why? Because we just don't believe it's possible. And this particular category of ignoring that generally comes down to the old story that often we tell ourselves about self-worth, or our feelings of lack around that. And then there are those who would like very much to respond to the nudges. You hear them, you get them. However, there's like a kind of inertia that you feel in that moment. It's like a state of stuckness, It's sluggishness, and it's for a variety of reasons. It can be because of what is happening in the world right now. That can contribute to a feeling of disempowerment, or it can be emotional stress caused by dysfunctional behaviors or relationships, all of which can kind of lead to a feeling of just non-responsiveness. It's just too much. Or you might be in the place in your life right now where you're in the group that actually does notice and receive the conversation that's passing by in the grocery store. However, it just might feel too much. It's like the cosmic buffet has gone way overboard. There's just too many dishes. It's just too much. And it feels like overwhelm. And if you fall into this category, I suggest that you sit down, you're quiet, you slow down, you listen, you feel into it, and you practice spiritual discernment. Whatever it is for you, when those nudges, those loving messages from the divine come into your life, and you have that instant response in that moment, whatever it may be for you, what I can assure you with everything that I am is that spirit within you is stronger than any of the business or the lack thinking or the inertia or the overwhelm. And if we can separate that, right? If we can realize in a moment, wow, this is a message from spirit for my betterment, for my growth, for my godness, for my goodness, for my growth, for all that is in my life that is wanting to be uplifted. If you could just stop for a second and breathe and say to yourself, spirit in me is stronger than whatever feelings I'm having around this. Spirit in me is stronger. Spirit in me is always stronger. And this is the place, too, in this conscious community where we get to recommit ourselves to dedicated spiritual practice, or we get to up the dedicated practice that you already or currently have. Be it meditation or prayer or spiritual study. We have new classes that are going to be coming in the fall, lots of fun new stuff. It might be contemplation or gratitude practice. It may even be dancing. This Wednesday we have, in the fireside room, we're going to have the Dances of Universal Peace. If you have not experienced that, oh honey, it is so cool. So whatever it is for you, nature, whatever it is for you, the more that you dedicate your time, the more that you unplug from all of the outside noise and dedicate some time just for you and spirit to be together, the easier your life will get. It's really that simple. So, to remember is that this love itself is actively live streaming our entire life, and it is the only platform that truly matters. We just need to listen to it. And then we need to act on it. And this is the second key piece. In metaphysics, we teach that everything is always created twice. It's created first as a divine idea in our mind, given to us by spirit. I gotta tell you something about this. So often when we get great ideas about something, you know, it's like, I have the best idea, I had a great idea. No, you didn't. I mean, all love and everything. You just heard it, received it from spirit, and then you get to claim it as your own. Right? So those moments when we have brilliant ideas about something, there is an opportunity to just say, oh, I am so grateful, God. Thanks be for giving this to me. And I am so grateful for listening. It's an opportunity for gratitude in there. So, we are always at choice. Always, always, always. Now, speaking of choice, when I was a sophomore in college, I swore off dating. I didn't date a lot, but I just wanted to be done with it, and I wanted to focus on my schooling and my career, and I told my family and my friends that I was just not going to date anymore. I was not interested in a relationship, not even remotely, and in fact, I probably would never marry, although I would be open to having kids, which caused my sweet dad to do a spit take at the dinner table. But it was a while back. That hasn't changed. But so I mean, I was convinced that I was going to be single at least for a decade. Like this was my story, and I was sticking to it. And then it couldn't have been more than, I don't know, like a week later. And I was on campus, and I walked into a building that I really didn't even want to be in the first place. And I laid my eyes on this beautiful man. And in that split second, I received this divine nudge from spirit in a complete thought, in the form of a complete thought, that at the time made absolutely no sense to me. And I turned to the stranger next to me, and I said, do you see that guy over there? And he was like, yeah. And I went, I'm going to marry him. And then my next thought was, holy bleep. Now, I was pretty stubborn and bullheaded in those days. In those days. So thank God I didn't let that get in the way. Thank God. And let it be known that I have had plenty of times in my own life when I have let my stubbornness or my small thinking get in the way of a big divine idea that has been given to me. But this time, thank God, I listened. And so a few days later, despite what I had so boldly told my entire family and friends, I summoned a boatload of courage, and I went up to him and I started a conversation. He's really handsome. I was really nervous. And we started a conversation that lasted 9 hours long. They actually kicked us out of the building, and we finished it outside in the courtyard. And next month we celebrate 24 years of marriage. But you know, it could have gone very differently. We are always at choice. And here's the thing. Moving forward never negates the past. We can't deny history, but we can always have a new thought about it. Moving forward never negates the past. We can't deny history, but we can always have a new thought about it moving forward. Because if we hold on to something negative, and some of us do that for dear life, if we hold on to something negative, it prevents us from experiencing the freedom of something new and the lightness in our being. I have witnessed this time time and time again with people all over. And they hold on to their resentments about fill in the blank, sometimes for years, which only keeps them mired and upset and misery. And it is so, so sad. We come from God, which is love. We are made to love ourselves and others. So if you are in an unloving place and you are struggling to forgive or release something, anything, whatever it may be, anything, I invite you to make the decision to love yourself enough to go ahead and do your work so that you can lay it down once and for all. And we can assist you with that. You can see a practitioner or a counselor. Whatever it works for you. You can use that lovely, lovely practice that Reverend Christine brought in last week. I raise this, I praise this with love. I raise you, I praise you with love. And by the way, if you have not yet heard her talk, please check it out on the podcast. It's awesome. So there's all kinds of ways that we can do this. And the thing is that for the love, my friends, if you are holding on to any resentment, lay it down and move on. Create that spaciousness for yourself so that you can create a new ending, so that you can create a new chapter, so that you can create a new beginning of a new book. I would like to read a blessing by John O'Donohue that speaks to this very thing. And this is for everyone, wherever you are in this journey of forgiving or releasing, letting go, or starting. It's called For a New Beginning. In out-of-the-way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered. Heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered would you always live like this. Then the delight when your courage kindled, and out you stepped onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dreams, a path of plenitude opening before you. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. So, how about creating a new story for yourself? How about creating a new narrative that you are absolutely 100% enough? That you no longer have to prove yourself or be defensive about your human moments. Along with that, while we're at it, how about if we write a new story that your body is glorious and beautiful exactly the way it is? How about that? How about if you create a new story that says you are always guided by the love of God, no matter where you are, all the time, you are never alone, you are always with Spirit, and Spirit is always with you. Yes. And how about if you create a new story that the world wants to experience your particular unique genius? How about that? The world wants that. We want that. Amen?
Amen.
Yes. So I believe that Spirit itself has made clear that this time, right here, we get to create a new chapter. And it is a divinely ordained story of this beloved community. So in order to do this together, I want you to know that I want to know you, and I want to be reintroduced to you if it's been a while. I want us to catch up. It's important to me that we develop a relationship that's based on love and trust. This is really, really important to me. And so what I'm working on is I'm going to create for like the next 4 to 5 weeks, every Monday, throughout the day, half-hour time periods, and we're going to have a sign-up, and we're working on that right now. We're probably going to get it electronically. And I invite you to come and have a cup of tea with me. Let's chat. I want to know your heart, and I want you to know mine. So look for that. That's coming. And, if meeting with me doesn't work for you, for your schedule, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, totally cool. I completely get it. Introverts unite. Not a worry. Not a worry. Just know that I'm here for you. I'm here for you. And as we move forward together, here is what I want to say to each of you. I am humbled, and I am honored to be here. And you can take it to the bank that I will do my very best to care for the needs of this community and for your dreams for this community. I will never take my position for granted. I am not wired that way. I care deeply, and I care fiercely. And if you know me, you know that kindness matters to me a lot. So I'm going to be really straight with you right now, and I'm going to let you know that I don't have a lot of patience for gossip and funkiness and stirring the pot energies, because it rubs up against the principles that I live by. And I just need you to know that. And I'll love you through whatever you're going through. But for me, kindness, connection, love matters a lot. I need for this place to do this work that I have this vision for. I need for this place to feel totally safe for everyone, including me. This is our spiritual home. This is our church. This is our sanctuary. This is our very, very long, long table. My personal statement of faith is peace in our lifetime. And my personal mission statement is to lead with love, to live by principle, and to shine light into the dark places. That is who I am, and that is who I am here to be with you. So, my friends, fair warning. I love big. Like, I love big. And it's okay if you're not comfortable with that. But I love big. And I love every one of you. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. So, are you ready to love big with me? Yes. Are you ready to create the most amazing, spiritual, incredible next chapter of this glorious place that is going to be? And let's just anchor all of this in prayer. Nice deep breath in. What a blessing it is to be in this love, to be in this vibrant energy that is a gift from the divine, to be called to be here in this time and place. Knowing that it is love itself, God itself, that woke us up this morning, that drove us in the car, and that is sitting in each one of these seats. This love to our left and to our right, in front of us, behind us, above us, below us. It's all God, it's all love, and it is always communicating to us through our sisters and brothers, our thoughts, our practice, our angels, the animals, whatever it may be. This Spirit is always on the breath, as our breath, with us. And so knowing this, holy and sacred chapters that we can write in our own lives and in that of this beloved community. I affirm this. I know this to be true. I bless every beloved here, and I bless every beloved that is on their way to our extra long table with the comfy seats. And what I know is that each one of us is a blessing to the world. Nothing short of that. Who we are is more than enough. And our souls are bursting forth to experience even more God and more Godness. And so on this beloved, treasured, glorious day, I bless all churches everywhere, mosques, ashrams, temples, circles, all paths to God, knowing that we are all one in this one human family, and we are all blessed by each other. And so I know that each one of us moves out into our day, into our week, noticing the old outdated stories, letting them go, creating a space for more, and we listen. We listen to the glorious orchestra of divine humanity around us, guiding us on our way. And so from this place of absolute grace, I give so much thanks for this answered prayer. I give so much thanks for this beautiful community. And I release my word into the law of the mind, knowing that it is already done, and all I need to do is sit back in the seat of my soul and allow. So from this place of